of the public that the new polling units, PUs, being created, which are the substantive polling points, were tilted geographically. And so there was a lot of hue and cry over this. And INEC had to go back to the drawing board, shelved that plan, and started what it called voting points, which means that where you have more than 500, 600 people in a particular register, you would create a subsidiary register in order to accommodate what is called voting points. And those voting points were within the same precincts as the existing PUs. I don't think INEC has gone back to the issue of PUs, and the issue being described by National Commissioner Lekki about voting point settlements is an issue that I'm quite familiar with because I live in Abuja, and I have seen the difficulty that people who are living in new estates, new settlements where there were no previous polling units have had to deal with. And I personally at this time have to travel a couple of kilometers to look for an existing polling unit to be able to vote. So I think it's something that is understandable with respect to Abuja, but it's also something that cuts across the country. There are new settlements, there are new areas, the demography of the country keeps changing, and I think that at some point INEC and the country has to deal with the issue of addressing this very big problem.
Aren't you rather disappointed? My question is, then the question next will be, are you surprised though, or are you disappointed, if you will, that INEC has not put into consideration states like Bayelsa, riverine areas where these settlements are still sprouting, and then concentrating this new initiative only in Abuja?
I think that's the worry a lot of people have. Not just Abuja is one example, but across the country, whether it's in Lagos even, or in Bayelsa, or in different other parts of the country, this is a major issue. The population of the country is exploding really quite quickly. New settlements are emerging, people are moving, and INEC has not addressed this as a global or as a national issue. And I think that's where the controversy comes in, that INEC may, in fact, just be dealing with one location or one state, if you describe FCT as a state, rather than address this as a global problem. And I think that it's not a problem that can be dealt with right now. I think that when you're looking towards the elections in 2023, or well, past 2019, INEC must address not just the issue of polling units, creating additional polling units, but also the whole issue of delineation of constituencies. The Constitution mandates INEC to deal with this every 10 years. This is almost 20 years of practicing this democracy. We've not had constituency delineation. These are issues that must be addressed.
Dr. Lekki, for those who have concerns about addressing this holistically, shouldn't INEC have addressed it holistically rather than start with FCT? Because they may interpret it as though INEC is going to force the entire country to accept these VBS in some of the other states that have settlements.
Well, like Clement said, like I said also, the FCT area is the only place where INEC is responsible for local government, so to say, elections. And because of that nature, there are certain things that don't necessarily really apply, across the country. We don't do local government. So the thing is right there in the face. Clearly, INEC is aware and is ready and is making plans to deal with this issue, a global address of the issues of PUs. The country certainly needs more PUs, more voting points, or more voting point settlements going forward. Is the politics of the matter and the timing. And we are aware of it. There is a hue and cry of that. Almost every community across the country is asking for this to happen. And that will happen, eventually, maybe after, certainly not this particular election. The reason why it's happening in FCT is because the FCT elections, which takes place like every 2 or 3 years, had happened before this election and coinciding again with this election. And so we use the template that has been provided, and designed for the FCT local government election to take the elections in FCT forward. Eventually, this matter has to be addressed across the country, in a way that it can be done for the next general election, maybe 2023 or so.
Okay, so
we are aware of it and concerned about it. It will be addressed, but it's simply not something that can be done for 2019 general election because it has there are a lot of issues, related to actually taking that forward. The issue of delineation, yes, every 10 years, that should be done. It's INEC's responsibility. But responsibility is actually lying clearly with National Assembly. They need to come up with a formula, and the formula has not been addressed. We have areas where we've gone to court, where INEC has been asked to create new constituencies in states like Plateau or maybe one other state. But we have done the delimitation on papers. We have drawn the maps. But National Assembly needs to take the next step.
So does that mean,
tinker with the legislation?
Just pardon me, as you wind down on this one, does that mean that this is going to lead to the creation of the 13,000 polling units?
There's no creation of 30,000 polling units. I think we need to get away from that. I think people just need to have this cliche that there were 30,000 polling units that were earmarked before the election, and so INEC is working through the back door to do that. That is not happening. So you need to find out, you need to ask, and find out, let people do the research for you. How many VPS are created, in Abuja FCT area? It's driven, like Clement also says, driven by the settlement. People are not allowed to come out to drive during the time of election because of movement. People cannot trek 10, 15, 20 kilometers to go to the nearest PUs to be able to vote. So that's why I said VPS were created in the place of FCT. It has to do with 30,000. I don't know where 30,000 units PUs even came from. It's an imagination and a figment of the press.
Because the concerns are very, very tight at this time, and we're getting those informations about what INEC is doing and how well it is practicing or unveiling this new innovations, because that automatically puts states under the pressure also to try to address those concerns as it regards their own states and how they can get more people to vote. As a matter of fact, since INEC is not responsible for elections at the local levels, then it will suggest to state governments that they will have to look into that with a view to also creating those VPS areas where people can also get to vote. But you have said it, it's not INEC that is doing this now, but we'll be looking at how this is going to unfold over the next couple of days leading up to the elections, and if other states will do what you are doing in the FCT, which will automatically, by chance, reflect to an increase in the number of polling points that we're going to be having. So we're going to go on a short break.
I think it's good. Just respond briefly. Go ahead, Dr. Lekki, briefly.
Work for everyone.
You want to respond to that briefly, if states are in order to create theirs as well?
Well, I think you need to go back to the Constitution and electoral and see what those documents allow states to do. It is not a creation of states. States don't create polling units and VPSs. We have explained, I think, Clement has also chimed in, the peculiarity of Abuja and the fact that it's the only area where INEC is responsible for local government elections. And he said where he lives and vis-a-vis the nearest polling unit. And we know that everywhere is growing in the country, and that requires a holistic approach. If INEC were not doing the FCT election, perhaps we don't have be faced with that particular challenge, which is a specific challenge, and find a way to deal with it. And like I said, it's something that INEC is going to deal with going beyond the 2019 general election, because it requires other stakeholders, including National Assembly, to play a role in the delimitation of constituency. INEC alone cannot do it.
All right, Dr. Mohammed Lekki and Mr. Clement Nwankwo, thank you both for coming on the program today. So we will be back and focus our attention on another matter in just a moment. Stay with us.